Hey guys, Levy Freeman here, and I just finished the 1944 NSEEK scenario here, so I just posted that. And for those of you guys who don't want to watch the whole campaign, but you're kind of interested in how I won, I will talk to you about I'll just do this video that covers like the basic strategy, right? So let's see, we had a bunch of save dates over here. I think we were doing. I think it was this one over here. Or it might have been setup 3. They're pretty similar anyways. Let's try it. I think it was this one because I think the 4 was the one that I was trying something else about trying to push over here and relieve the Corland pocket, which is possible. I was successful in doing that, but I don't know if that's the way that you want to go. No, it was not this setup, unfortunately. Setup 4. Maybe it was 4 all along. Let's see. I showed it in one of the videos. I think it was part 3 or 4 has the setup shown. Yeah, it was this one over here. Okay, so like this was a setup that that was ultimately successful. So the idea here was that we were going to take all of our stuff and we're going to give a little bit of ground to get ourselves behind the river, get ourselves into like some forests and shit, and kind of buy time. And this pocket over here is pretty untenable to hold. Like, look at all the divisions they got over here, right? And these guys will get cut off if you don't pull them out pretty early. So this is kind of the line I picked. I decided to abandon Italy. Like, you might be able to hold Italy. It has pretty good defensive terrain, and the Allies aren't that strong. You could maybe grab a few tiles over here and try and keep Benito alive, but I didn't bother doing that. Benito will get lampposted, unfortunately, but it is what it is. But this was a line I found that was like kind of like the winner, and you kind of need to give up enough ground that you have time to deal with the situation in France, right? That's what you're doing. You're giving up ground. You're holding defensive terrain. And I've got the double line up over here so that you do have like a second line in case your guys get pushed back. There's some guys behind to kind of catch them up a little bit, so the Soviets don't just get a rout. So I split the army over here in half, and that was like all these guys down here plus all the guys on the eastern front, and brought them back over here and then went with that defensive line times 2. So that's what we did over there. We have the pocket over here. Like, I think I decided to not, like, I just abandoned these guys and wanted just disbanding them to get the 20% equipment back. It is possible, like, I think if you watch this, like, these guys do walk out of this tile. In the 1945 scenario, I did in a couple tries, I was able to get these guys out. And these are pretty good. Like, there's, like, a lot of units in here. And if you'll notice, I have consolidated most of these guys already. Normally when you load into the scenario, these guys are like around 50 to 80% strength, most of your units. You want to consolidate them. But there's quite a lot of men and equipment in this pocket, but we're pulling back anyways, and it's tough to save these guys. You have to really commit to saving these guys. You can do it, but you have to commit to it. And I'm not sure if that's worth the attention. There's a lot of stuff going on here. And you got to kind of pick your battles. So the idea with this plan was that we were going to fall back to this line over here, buy time, and then win the Battle of the Bulge in a pretty fast fashion. And then once that's done, you can bring your armored units back from France over here to kind of shore up the line. You can bring some infantry back or whatever you need to do. I think ultimately when I did solve the scenario, these guys had to hold out until we also came into over here and we took back like a decent chunk of Italy as well too. Push it back over here. I was finding otherwise if you kind of like leave the Italian front open over here, that can be a problem for you too. So I decided to push it in a little bit and get up to like I think I had like one of the a line like I think I actually just went back to this like original line now that I think about it. or you can hold along this river here. But what you're trying to do is not have a front with the Italians over here. They can push in through that, and it's you're capped in the amount of divisions that you have in the field for a while. So this bottleneck is a lot better, and then you can kind of guard some ports. You need to guard your ports, otherwise you will get D-Day'd. I made that mistake once. So kill France, push back into Italy, or I guess maybe a variation would be to not give up Italy in the first place. Although you do need kind of like every man for the front to hold against the Soviets. Like that's like a tough call, but maybe that's a tactic you could do. You fall back over here, kill France, push back into Italy, guard your coasts, and then bring the panzers back over here, and then you counterattack. That's how I did it, and that seemed to like work pretty okay. And then when it came over here, I was able to push down over here. What I went for was a pin in the Alps. So we pushed down towards Zagreb over here, through like the plains and the hills, and then encircled the Soviets over here. They had kind of pushed up, and we had Italy over here, I think it was, and we had the Soviets pushed up over here, and we took it. We did get kicked out of Italy in that campaign. You got to pay attention to that. The Allies can kind of push through Italy. Yeah, maybe it's a better idea to take all of Italy back, but they will naval invade, and you need quite a few divisions to guard these ports. So I think like the least amount of divisions to hold Italy is just this line, and then you guard a couple ports, and that's probably your easiest defensible front line. But at the very least, you want to make sure after you kill France, you station guys in the Alps if you're not going to push back to take Italy. Of course, once you take Italy, that makes it easier to pin the Soviets over here too, to kill whatever guys they have in the Alps and take them out. And then once that's done, it's basically like your standard slog through Russia, until they're dead. Nothing too special about it. Norway, I did wind up losing Norway, but that's not a big deal. It does give the Soviets support over on this side over here, so they can start doing a little bit of naval invasion shenanigans on you too, but not that threatening. You do need to leave a couple tank units. I think I left 3 tank units over here to help deal with naval invasions at the end, 340 with tank divisions. And that's necessary because the U.S. could sometimes stick a landing past your garrisons. You need to squash those D-Days right quick, otherwise you can get overwhelmed. So like that's it in terms of like the general overall strategy. Like other stuff I tried was like going for the Courland pocket over here. And if you bring your tank divisions, like you kind of need to get everybody over to wherever it is you decide you're going to push. Like I brought all the tanks over here to try and blitzkrieg through France. And in the other attempt, when I tried to do the Courland pocket, I brought all the tanks over here and went to make this like this counter encirclement over here against these Soviet divisions. You can do that. The problem is like the Soviet front, when you start this scenario over here, the Soviets are real aggressive. They're extremely aggressive on you, and it's really difficult to try and make encirclements early game because you're just getting constantly attacked, and your units are pinned a lot. So it's really difficult to get anything done against the Soviets early game. Once you're back of this line, you've held them for a bit. The Soviets, because they're so aggressive, they will grind into you super hard, and then their units will get very depleted, and you can just kind of counterattack and kill them. And once they stop attacking, that's like the signal that like you can kind of go ahead and murder a bunch of Soviets. That's kind of like what I found, anyways. But you can go, and it is possible. If you bring your air over here, you can get your tanks to break this pocket and do that. So maybe you want to do that first, and then try and come over here and counterattack the Allies. But like I said, you have limited time. And with all this is going on, the rest of your line is getting pushed back by the Soviets. So I think the easiest solution is to come and then blitzkrieg through France. And that's not that difficult to do. Your army is still pretty good. It's better than what the French have over here. And you start with a lot of equipment to get decent tank divisions. And speaking of which, like for units and templates, I guess I'll go over that now. So we have this template that I made off the standard infantry template. And this is basically just a 20 width with the anti-air and the shovels. That's it. Anti-air is like really important because in the beginning of the game you're going to be fuel capped a lot. and the allies are going to have air and they're going to have CAS. So you're going to, I think the Soviets have some too. So like you're going to need a way to deal with that. You're going to have a hard time. Like you have to sometimes, you can't have your air up all the time, and you don't have as much air as you'd like anyways. So I went with the AA, and I found that really helped with the CAS damage that I was taking. Unfortunately, you do not start with any anti-air at all in this scenario, so you're going to have to build your production lines from scratch. But if you've played Republic of China before, you know that even just like 1 or 2 anti-air pieces in your unit, even though it doesn't give you the stats, it will still help you with the CAS damage reduction. So just put it in there. Just put it in there. That's all I got to say on that. And the 20 width is just, that's a standard width division as opposed to the 24 you start with. And like you don't really need like the recon or the other companies or the anti-tanks. You just go with this, keep it cheap. So that was that. That was an early game template. And then after we had like enough support equipment, I'll show you that from a different save. So like that was the infantry template we made. I think the rest of this stuff, the Panzer Division 2, at some point I threw 1 more mechanized into this template. We had some extra mechanized equipment. And this is our tank division over here. We merged. So you take a couple of your tank divisions, like you take 2 tank divisions, you swap them off to your 40 width template, and then you consolidate them. And that's how you get a full strength 40 width division in the field fastest. You put the 2 20 width tanks, or the 18 width tanks as it is. You put the 2 of them on the one tile, you merge them. After swapping the template, you merge them, and that throws all their manpower and equipment together real fast, like instantly. And that's how you get the 40 widths in the field for the start. Like you can see, we've got these guys over here are almost full strength. They're missing some equipment, but they've got 92% manpower. And if you do need to add some more manpower to your unit, you can just pick a template, swap it over to a tank template, and then merge them. That'll just throw the manpower in there. Obviously, they won't have any equipment because that takes time to issue. I did swap the recon out for a maintenance company. You'll notice that these guys start with a cavalry maintenance company, and that caps their speed, like you see there, to 4 kilometers per hour. So you need to drop that immediately. So you pull that out. I merged a couple of the 40 widths together, and I grabbed a bunch of the starting ones over here with that maintenance swap. And I just kind of use these more or less like motorized or like a light tank unit to kind of follow up on the other tank unit, the 40 width tank unit, just so you have a little bit more width in your line. Also, because the reason that I don't convert all of them over was, like, if you look over here, this is the tank template that we decided to roll with. And this is like maintenance, engineers, support anti-air, same as the regular tank division, except I've expanded it to be a 12-8. And we've added, critically, you'll notice here, we have 1 heavy tank. You do start with 2 of the Tiger brigades in the field, which is a terrible template, but you do start, and they have, I think they're about 60%. So you have about four total battalions of heavy tank equipment available, which is why we have also 4 40 width tank divisions, so that we can actually equip those with the heavy tanks. The reason that 1 heavy tank is important is because that will get your armor. I think these guys are under strength, so they haven't had the equipment issued yet. But that will get your armor up, if you look at the template, that will get your armor up to 73. And that's really important because the AI's units, they all have support anti-tank, and they have a piercing of, I think, somewhere between 65 and 68, or 63 and 68 on most of the AI units that you fight. Somewhere around that number. So they will pierce the fuck out of these medium tanks. Armor 46. You might have to disband some medium tanks to get all your units up to full strength too. I think you don't quite have any, they're all under strength. You have to do some disbanding and consolidating. So if you do not put the heavy tank in your tank divisions, you will get pierced. And if you know anything about Hearts of Iron 4, you know that if you're armored, your unit fights more than 2 times better than it does if it does not have an armor bonus. So adding that heavy tank into your tank units really lets you push like a proper 40 with tank division like you expect it would, as opposed to bouncing a lot because you're getting pierced. And I think I've seen a few guys that were doing this scenario on YouTube, and they said that the tank units did nothing, they didn't help at all. And I think that's because they didn't they didn't fix their armor problem, and they were playing with a medium tank division that was getting pierced. And I think that was the problem. So I found that this template over here, you have all the equipment for it in the field ready to go at the game start, so you can start attacking right away, or not quite right away. You do have to wait for the equipment to get there, but like almost right away. You can start pushing, and you'll have the armor bonus. So I found that template to be very effective. In terms of France, like I tried a couple different ways of breaking France. Attacking in through Mulhouse over here, like you have a hills province right here that you can attack into. You can come around and encircle the Maginot, and like that works. That is an option to do. The other option I found is like you can just break through kind of like normal, like you break through these forest tiles over here. Particularly, you have I think this one over here, and then you can get into this tile. And then, like, once you're across the river, if you're able to carry the momentum and pin these guys, you can go for the Dunkirk encirclement. That's pretty typical, like, if you play Kaiserreich at all, which I do, it's like the Dunkirk encirclement is, like, pretty standard. Like, you go here and you kill an army. Either way you're attacking from, that's usually the first play that I go for. So you can go ahead and do that here, too, and that works fine. And then you can come around and wrap around this way over here against the Swiss border and try and take out, like, this army over here. And you could also just maybe do you don't have enough tank divisions really to go for like the double envelopment. So I found like one then the other kind of like worked okay. And then you snake some victory points. You get Paris, you get Cherbourg, you get Brest, and like I think once you start getting like down around over here, that's usually when France capitulates. And then you can then I think it's probably a good idea to push through Italy, and you at least get yourself up to here. Or get something. Like this is probably not a bad line to hold either. You get the rivers, you get the mountains, you have the urban tile over here. And give yourself some buffer room so the allies don't just push through over here and then they have all the space to like expand, right? And then make sure to guard your ports and then bring your stuff back over here and start holding against the Soviets. Unfortunately, most of the guys that you use to kill France, you then have to station in France to guard the ports and the coastline, and then hold this front line over here. So you can send like only a few units back, but having the tanks back after the Blitzkrieg and being able to use the tanks against the Soviets makes a big difference. So that was the start. That was the setup. I'm going to load a few more of these save points over here. I made. I didn't play in Iron Man mode because I was still trying to solve the scenario, but I might later. So this was the save after the fall of France. Kill France, and then I threw some guys in the border over here. And I think the first time I tried this scenario, I didn't have enough stuff on the Italian border, and the Americans made a push through the Alps and got to an unwinnable situation. So I had to reload back to this spot. And the time I played after that, instead of sending all the tanks back over to this line, I pulled them back down over here, and we encircled the Italians over here and pushed them up. And at the same time, we sent some tank units over here, and we tried to go for that kind of wraparound over here. Over there after, I think, was the play I went for. So, you can do that. That's not too bad. You can see the Soviets have pushed all the way up to here. And at this point, I've just done a field marshal order. And just having the guys kind of hold back as much as they can. And then I have a second line back here in the fallback line. These are mostly converted off of the Volkssturm template, and you just have it over here as just like another final defensive line before, like you don't want them to get to Berlin because then you lose Hitler, you lose the game, right? Don't want to do that. So that was the transition out of that and what that looks like. And the maintenance companies, I think, made a big difference too. Like I think at this point over here. That would be this theater. So like you're capturing, I captured a decent amount of equipment in France just from having the maintenance companies over there. Like you can see we lost 7,600 guns and we captured you know, 11,000. So it's we captured 11,000. So we captured more guns with our maintenance companies than we lost from the Allies. And then like we got a bunch of medium tanks, we got a bunch of light tanks. Look at that, 1,319 captured light tanks. Like I think towards the end of the game, I wound up with like a bunch of free units just from closing all these pockets with the tanks with maintenance companies. And the maintenance companies in this mod, like because to go back so far, it's like you're getting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I think you get this later on. You're getting like 35% equipment capture, so it's pretty significant. And I think towards the end of the game, I swapped all of my guys over to have the maintenance company, even on the infantry. So we'll go for grab another save. So I think this is like a little bit after we've stabilized. We've got the full lineup over here, and you see these guys like very depleted, and we've pushed back up, and we've taken quite a bit of Italy. I'm pushing back up to this line over here to get a bigger buffer, and we're cleaning up some D-Day invasions right now. So that was like the next portion of this game. We're kind of pushing back and we're counterattacking. We've retaken Prague and Dresden over here. We made a bunch of pockets. So you can see like these units, we've stolen so many guns off of the Soviets and like the trucks and stuff like that with the maintenance companies. Just like look at this, right? So you're making a fucking killing off of those maintenance companies. And I think this is before I converted the infantry to have the maintenance companies. But so that was that. Pushing over here, took back Italy and started a counterattack, and we're holding against D-Day. A couple other things to like I guess think about over here, like stuff I would change. Like we have war exhaustion, and I think probably instead of doing construction repair, or maybe even just with your starting political power, you probably want to deal with this situation because it gets pretty bad. It gets pretty bad. You also have to kind of watch where you're being bombed so you can counter with your interceptors and your fighters, which you don't have a whole lot of. And make sure you're hitting your war propaganda decisions and your improved worker conditions when you can to try and keep some semblance of stability and war support. The strikes will happen and it sucks. And if you get a strike at a bad time, that can be real. Like that can just end you. If you have no civilian factories left and you can't repair anything and you can't trade for oil, that's a major problem to be in. I should also mention too that like your fuel source, the Allies seem to raid very little in this game. So you can see here I'm importing 80 oil from Venezuela and I'm not being interdicted at all. So trading for oil is definitely your lifeline early game, and you want to trade for as much oil as possible, like right from the start, to keep your silos full, especially when you're fighting in France. Get every drop of oil you can from trade. Spend as much as you can. Get everything you can from Venezuela, and that'll keep you in the game for the Battle of the Bulge, and keep your air up. Unfortunately, you have a lot of close air support, not a whole lot of fighters. Go to the next step over here. So we got counterattacked. We got pushed back in Italy, which was unfortunate. It was unfortunate, but we were pushing back in the north, and we encircled quite a few Soviet units. As you can see, we've kind of flipped the casualties in our favor. We're kind of really dealing with some pretty rough blows to their tank units and stuff. And cleaning up, Americans got something over here, so we sent some tanks over to clean up that pocket. I think this is when we're kind of starting. I think after this is when we did our push over here and we swept down over here and pinned the Soviets in this pocket over here. So that was that next part of the game. Still stabilized. You can see just how weak Soviets units are from being so aggressive. And again with the maintenance companies too, right? And these guys aren't so bad yet, but it's like still a pretty significant number of stuff that we're fielding that's foreign. I should have consolidated these armies earlier, but you know, it is what it is. And I think after that, it's like after we ended the counterattack in that scenario. I wound up over here, and then like at this point, it's like you pretty much have like a pretty good handle on the game. After this, I went and took back. So I pushed them back up over to around over here. We took all the Balkans and Greece, and I kicked the Allies that are out of Italy. But at this point, like you're starting to train new units, and you're really giving the Soviets a licking. And you can see 15 million. So you killed like another 6 million Soviets, and we haven't taken too many casualties since then. So like the game's kind of turned around at this point. We held on long enough. Their units were low strength, and we just started encircling them and killing them in droves with our tank units. So that was that. Kind of like other stuff to note too, I should say like right at the start, and I do have a video about my initial setup too on this playlist if you want to watch it, but right away you want to make sure you start on scraping the barrel, which in this mod gives you a pretty disgusting malice. So you start entirely mobilized though. So what I did at the start is I dropped from scraping the barrel right down to limited conscription. And then when we started dropping below the 7% manpower for service by requirement, then I started putting it up on service by requirement after we demobilized. So that'll get you a lot more equipment early game too. Like you definitely don't want to be on scraping, especially with like 2 million manpower in the bank. That's silly. So like you don't want to do that. Don't want to do that. And yeah, so I think that's like pretty much it for like in terms of the strategy. That's how I did it. You can watch my setup video. I think the only thing I changed from that setup video I did versus the one I tried in this attempt where I won was I changed the position of the fallback line. So I gave a little bit more up to the Soviets to buy a little bit more time in France over here. I mean, if you're really hardcore, you can micro this retreat back, and that would be best. But like, it's really difficult to do a micro-intensive fallback and then also do a micro-intensive blitzkrieg in France. And I chose to do to spend my attention on the blitzkrieg in France. So I just gave up a little more than you probably would need to otherwise. So I'd be able to concentrate on this. So do that. Clear scraping the barrel, super important. I probably would, like, if I had to do it again, I would probably spend war support and stability right away to drop war exhaustion down. This gives you a negative 20% organization malice, which is pretty brutal. And a bunch of other things, including negative weekly stability and negative weekly war support. So I didn't really understand this mechanic too hot because like I was kind of new to the mod. But now that I realize how bad this is and like how like it would definitely be better just to pay this and then leave your focus open and get the political power to slam these clicks back and just get rid of war exhaustion or it's going to leech you all game. And I did have problems with strikes and stuff like that, definitely. So you want to deal with that. And also, like, is it worth it to get the spy agency? I don't know. Like, your civilian industry is mostly stuck repairing things most of the game, unfortunately. And by the time you've kind of turned that around and stuff's repaired and you're building a bunch of planes to block bombing, you're kind of pretty much already killing Soviet anyways. So that was that. And then from there, you just go and basically you kill Soviet. That's it. It's pretty easy to win from this position. Unfortunately, Finland is on the Allies too, so it's like I had to go kill Finland, which is a bit of a pain in the ass. Yeah, but that's it. That's pretty much all I really have to say. That's a strategy. First video in the series shows like the setup position, and this kind of just walks through the steps and the fallback line. that I took if you didn't want to watch the whole series. But if you do that, you should also be able to win the scenario if you want to try it yourself without doing any cheese, like releasing puppets or doing the border wraparound cheese. It is winnable without that, at least on normal difficulty. You do have to micro pretty hard in France, though. It's definitely not that you line your units up and you battle plan. You have to actually work your tanks and make encirclements. And you are on a timer because you need to deal with this and potentially push back the Italians or the Allies in Italy. You need to deal with this fast enough so that you can come back over here and then clean up and push back on some of this area over here to get them away from Berlin. So it might take a couple attempts to get used to doing that, and of course you can see how I did it on the channel. So that's definitely the hardest part. That, and then just holding this line, and then you have to be real careful. And it'd be nice to focus on killing the Soviets and all. Like if things start going south over here, or they start sticking landings, you need to pull your tanks back. You need to fucking deal with this, or it becomes like a like once the cat's out of the bag, you can't stick it back in. It's pretty hard, especially if the U.S. lands a bunch of units, starts flooding France with it. It becomes a major problem. So you have to kind of nip this stuff in the bud real fast. And that was the mistake I made that cost me like the clean first playthrough, I think. I was a little bit too lax and thought my garrison would be able to handle it, and I just wanted to play with my tanks, killing Soviets at the time. Definitely a big mistake. But that's a strat. This is a real fun scenario. I know some people say NSEG is like masochistic or something like that. It definitely does get pretty frustrating, but like this is a pretty fun Hearts of Iron 4 scenario to challenge yourself with. I enjoyed it a lot, and I think I'll probably give it another run in Iron Man maybe. The 1945 is significantly more difficult than this is, though, so be warned if you want to try that. But that's it. That was my strat. Hope you enjoyed this series. Lovey Freeman signing out.